We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below.
On Saturday, June 21st, the heart of Port Moody came alive with the sights and sounds of culture, celebration, and community. National Indigenous Peoples Day 2025 was celebrated at Rocky Point Park, where the PCT Performance Stage hosted an afternoon of live entertainment from 1 to 3 p.m. The free public event invited residents and visitors to honor and reflect on the rich traditions, resilience, and contributions of Indigenous peoples across Canada and the province, right here in the unceded territory of the Coast Salish Nations.
I was here last year and I was praying for rain because we had already been smoked out a couple of times from the wild forest fires. So just grateful to be here. This is a known village of Tsleil-Waututh people, Semamet, and I'm just stepping into the footprints of our ancestors. We had a big feasting village here, and I'm just grateful to be a part of this day, to come back home and to welcome you all on behalf of, I like to say, our elders, because we really reach back for that ancestral knowledge and that wisdom to carry on and pick up the tools that our ancestors did to resume life here and sustain it for thousands of years. And you know, all the things that we do, the decisions that we make, and the plans that we have are for our children. So on behalf of our ancestors and on behalf of our elders and our children from Tsleil-Waututh, we open up our hearts and this stage for you today to share a little bit of the Indigenous, National Indigenous celebrations today. Simtalat Quanaf Squee Talitsin at Tsleil-Waututh. Ait Tanishgualo and Tanita E. Siamalala ta man tiaktana ta ten. Oh, hula. our protocols, I'm inviting our ancestors back here to join us for this afternoon, but as well your ancestors, whatever you've done in your life trails to lead you here today, and open that door, door to your heart and your mind, to celebrate with us. So happy to be here. We don't have a big presence here in Port Moody like we once have, but the doors are opening, and I feel like just at the mouth of the inlet there, we just celebrated səlilwətaЛ, which is our name for Barnett Marine Park, and we've got two figures there. If you have time to look, there are two figures of the wolf. So we are children of Takaya. That's who took care of our very first grandfather when he was placed here on this territory. It was the wolf mother, and that was a really good day to have that celebration, because it kind of felt like the prelude to Indigenous Day, of kicking that door open and allowing Indigenous stories, Indigenous culture, and Indigenous people to be seen on the land that they are from. And so today we come with those, with our songs and our dances, and that good aichgualo and that good feelings that we have in our heart. Just recognize some of my relatives in the audience, and happy to see you here, as well as our friends and relatives from around here. Hi, Tsapka, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy your afternoon. Hi, Chika.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the Mayor of Port Moody, on behalf of the City of Port Moody, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Rocky Point Park for the celebration of National Indigenous Peoples Day. We are honored to have begun this afternoon with that meaningful welcome blessing from Tsleil-Waututh Nation Councillor Charlene Alec. Thank you for your important words, Charlene, and for your kind spirit, grounding us in traditional ways as we begin today's celebrations. I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded homelands of the Coquitlam, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, Squamish, Katzie, Kwantlen, Kikite, and Stolo peoples. We are grateful to live, work, and gather on these lands. I want to particularly recognize Tsleil-Waututh Nation, whose homelands are where we stand today, here in Port Moody. Tsleil-Waututh have lived in a relationship with these lands and waters since time immemorial. This area holds particular cultural and spiritual importance to the Tsleil-Waututh people, and it's home to several of their historic winter villages and is a part of their sacred creation stories. Their deep connection to this land continues to this day, and we honor their presence, teachings, and stewardship. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize some members of council who are here today. We have Councillor Samantha Agtarat, Councillor Kyla Knowles. Where are you, Kyla? There she is. Councillor Amy Lubick, and Councillor Haven Lerbecki. I know that Councillor Morrison was here earlier and had an opportunity to introduce himself to some of the people here today. He's off to another engagement as acting mayor. We had a coin toss. I said I'm staying here. He said, okay, I guess I'm going. So he lost. So he didn't lose, but he's off to do some work on my behalf. Yeah, and as well, our MP Zoe Royer was here earlier, and she's actually gone with him to the same event. I'd also like to acknowledge our MLA, Rick Glumac, is in attendance. Welcome, Rick. And lastly, we have one of our Freedom of the City recipients here, Mr. Robert Simons. I don't see where you are, Robert. Oh, hi, Robert. So June is the month where we celebrate National Indigenous History, a time to honor the history, the strength, beauty, and richness of Indigenous cultures and communities. Today we come together to celebrate and honor Indigenous peoples and to listen, learn, and reflect on the deep and valuable contributions of Indigenous peoples, including areas such as art, language, environmental stewardship, governance, and community leadership. The wisdom and resilience of Indigenous peoples continues to inspire and guide us all. Through education and open dialogue, we can build bridges to respect and foster a deeper appreciation for the diverse cultures that make up our shared heritage. This afternoon is about taking time with your family, friends, and community to connect to this place, learn from Indigenous peoples, and explore Indigenous experiences and offerings. We invite you to listen, to truly hear the stories, perspectives, and experiences of the Indigenous peoples. As your mayor, I'm deeply honored to support this meaningful celebration, and I extend my sincere gratitude to the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation, all the Indigenous artists, the community members that have made today possible, as well as Pomo Arts, Nunes Creek Hatchery, and the City of Port Moody staff. This afternoon's program brings together a dynamic range of voices and powerful performances, really looking forward to it, that we are fortunate to experience. And once the onstage performances conclude, be sure to take part in the dancing and arts activity in the grass area and enjoy some delicious bannock. Throughout the entire event, Master Carver, I have it, Hualacton, will also be at work, offering a unique opportunity to witness his artistry as we all enjoy this afternoon together. Thank you again for being here. Let's keep learning from one another and honoring the Indigenous voices that we hear today and celebrating together with respect, humility, and joy.
It's our great pleasure to introduce the children of Takaya from Tsleil-Waututh Nation.
quit to squile, I swat to sequatal eight see quite oath, made chop ois kayat. Just saying good afternoon, friends, relatives. Welcome again. That was our Swauken Slolum, also known as our swan song and dance. It's also a song of welcome. The next song and dance we're going to share with you is our Spakwas Slolum, also known as our Eagle Song and Dance. Thank you. Once again, it was our Eagle Song and Dance. Just want to take this time and talk about our creation story, the language we would say Nachau Sweka or Nachau Se'o Swochbayam, meaning the story of our first man, or we also call it the story of our first grandfather. So in the long ago, before our people were here, it was just the land and the water and the animals. And then our very first grandfather was transformed from a wolf into a small boy we would call səlilwətaḻ. So this small boy, he then learned from everything around him how to survive. That's a little better. So he learned from the salmon, the circle of life. So as you know, the salmon will leave its birth stream to travel the oceans of the world and eventually return home to give life and die. He learned from the little birds when the berries would be ripe up high in the mountains. And one of our grandmothers used to say, when you wake up early in the morning and you hear the little birds chirping and singing, she would say that that's the song the little birds sing to call the sun in the morning to give us warmth. So this small boy then learned all the uses of the cedar tree, specifically the chapai, the red cedar. So he learned how to make clothes and nets for fishing and various other uses, paddles, canoes, even our homes would be made from the cedar tree. So every time this small boy learned something new, he would make his way to this cliff that overlooked the Burrard Inlet. And it was there he would stand and he would pray and give thanks to Creator. So this went on for some time, and eventually this small boy turned into a young man. And he looked around and he noticed all the animals that were around him they were starting families of their own. They were finding partners and having children. So this upset him, but he also felt very lonely knowing that he was the only one of his kind. So once again, he made his way to this cliff. But this time was different. As he stood there, he received a vision from Creator. And what he saw himself doing was diving off this cliff. So that's what he did. He followed through. He dove into the water. He swam down to the bottom and grabbed and collected as much rock and earth and sediment as much as he could hold in his two hands. He then made his way to the beach where he collected some some cedar boughs. And he made a nice circle in the center. He laid out this rock and earth. And he was so tired, he fell asleep right there on the spot. So the next morning, when the sun came over the mountains, he woke up and laying next to him was a beautiful woman. And again, in this moment, Creator spoke to him and told him that she is a gift directly from the womb of Mother Earth to love her, respect her, and cherish her. So like I already mentioned, we call this our creation story, but it's not only the story of our first grandfather, it's also the story of our first grandmother who was born from the inlet right out here. So as you already heard, we are the Wolf Clan, but we're also known as people of the inlet, and that's giving thanks and acknowledgement and honoring our first grandmother who was born of the salt water. So with that, at this time, we're going to share our nature song and dance. Thank you once again. That was our creation story along with our nature song and dance. Being that it is Indigenous Peoples Day, I know I always remember it as Aboriginal Day, but I remember being like some of our young children here, and when I was that age, it was just another day. There was little to no celebration or acknowledgement. So it's nice that we're finally able to not only acknowledge this day, but even take this time to acknowledge the ones that came before us, our ancestors, and really to celebrate them, not only the ones that are living, but the ones that are no longer here with us. Because our Tsleil-Waututh, our ancestors, they went through a lot. They lived through a very, very dark part of not only the history of our people, but the history of this country of Canada. So our ancestors, they survived an ice age. And some of the ancestral names actually mean just that, survivor of the ice age. Our people also survived what we call the Great Flood, which is very similar in other nationalities, other religions, and other parts of the world. So we did have a Great Flood here where the ocean levels rose, and later on we also had the səlilwətaЛ, the two-headed serpent, that at one time went right across the entire inlet, and what it brought with it was sickness and disease. So if people tried to go near it, over it, or around it, they would become very sick and more than likely die. And with that, our people survived the colonization and residential school, boarding school, Indian day school, and then came the potlatch law, which outlawed and made our cultural practices illegal. So what our ancestors did, what they had to do was they had to practice our ways in secret, and some would say they had to go underground and sing and dance in basements, that sort of thing, because at one time our people could be arrested or even killed for doing doing what you see here today. So with all of that, I should mention that our Tsleil-Waututh once numbered anywhere between 10 and 15,000, and after sickness and disease, not just one but 3 waves of smallpox, that number went down to approximately 39, 13 of which were adults and the rest children. So we're very lucky to be standing like this here today, to be able to share a little bit with you. The dance group was started, Children of Takaya was started sometime back in the 1950s, just as a way to share a little bit of who we are, but also let the public and the non-Indigenous know that we're still here, we're still on the land, we're still singing our songs and dancing our dances. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to pass it off to our relative, Les George, and he's going to share one of our legends.
Osium, Kazi. I just like to raise my hands for everyone being here today. It fills my heart to share my knowledge. I'm one of the storytellers for Tsleil-Waututh. Our stories that we tell tell our stories to honor our loved ones, our mythical creatures. We tell them to tell our stories to teach, to keep people away from the water, to keep our children away from the forest. The story I'd like to share with you today is about one of our great men, one of our great warriors, and one of our great chiefs. He was probably one of my great uncles. His name was Waututh. Now Waututh was one of our great men, and as my cousin mentioned, we had 10,000 Tsleil-Wautuths roaming this inlet, living on both sides of the inlet. Now Waututh, he was one of the keepers of the land. And when he would wake up in the morning and he would see the rain that we felt this morning, and he would give thanks for the rain. In the summertime, when it's really, really hot, and we're complaining that it's too hot, he would wake up and he would give thanks for the sun. In the wintertime, when it was snowing, he would give thanks for the snow. And he would come out of his house every day and he would share this song. that song every morning. That's who Waututh was. That was in his heart to do that every morning. Now, he had these special powers. I'm not talking powers like Spider-Man or Superman. The powers that he had were powers of communication. And I don't mean like I'm talking to you right now. I mean powers of communications with the four-leggeds, with the deer, the wolf, the bear. He would be walking through trails, all of these trails that you see around here. He'd be walking through them and he'd come across a creek. And there would be a deer there. And I would get startled and stand up and look. And Waututh would get startled too. And then he would see. And if it had antlers, he would say, "Good morning, brother." If it didn't have antlers, he would say, "Good morning, sister." That's who Waututh was. And when you walk on trails, sometimes there's trails that go parallel to each other. And he would be walking on a trail, and he would look up, and on the other trail over would be a bear. And the bear would look back, and he would see Waututh, and Waututh would see him. And they both knew that they weren't there to harm each other, and they would both carry on their journeys. Those are the powers that I'm talking about that Waututh had. And he would share these powers every day. But it goes further than that. Those powers went to the winged ones. He would see the winged ones. When we see hummingbirds, they would be flying around, but they would almost land on his shoulder. And he would talk calmly to them. Those are the powers that Waututh had. Now those powers carried on to the water. When he would be in the water, he'd be able to communicate with the finned ones, the salmon, the blackfish, the orcas, yo-yots we call them, the killer whales. He would even communicate with them. And even the sea puppies, the seals, he would see them in his canoes. He would be out in these waters and they would come almost right up to his canoe and he would greet them with open arms. Those are the powers I'm talking about that Waututh had. And if we were all to Tsleil-Waututh and we were all out there trying to harvest our salmon, we would look over, we wouldn't be getting nothing. And we would look over at Waututh and there would be salmon splashing around, all around them. Those are the powers that I'm talking about that Waututh had. But with those powers came responsibility. He would see the brother bear go up into the woods. He would know that the winter is coming. And he would let all of us know to start chopping wood, to harvest our wood, so that we'd make it through the winter. When there'd be certain birds coming back after the winter, he would let everybody know that it's time to go get the berries. That's what I'm talking about, the powers of Waututh. Now Waututh, he would let all of us know. We have a salmon village. If you follow the inlet by Bunsen and keep going, we have a salmon village up there in Tsleil-Waututh. And we would go up there and we would harvest our salmon. And Waututh, he would let all of us know. Get your canoe. It's time to head up there. Grab your salmon gear, let's go. It's time to go fishing. And we would all listen to Waututh. We would get in our canoes and we would go. And we would head up to Tsleil-Waututh. And he would make sure that each and every one of you got up there, because part of our diet was 85 to 90% salmon. So we would have to make sure that we get up there to get our salmon for the winter. Now on the North Shore, we have a park there, Tsleil-Waututh. And when you're at Tsleil-Waututh, if you look west, you can see all the way down to Lionsgate Bridge. If you look east, you can see all the way up the inlet. Now Waututh, he would go sit there and he would wait for each and every one of you to go by in your canoes, and he would share the song as you went by. Way up to the salmon village, Waututh would go up last, and he would go up in his canoe. Now I've been there a few times, and I've been there when there hasn't been salmon, and I've been there when it's salmon season. And when I go up there in the summer, I can see all the way down to the bottom of the river. It's clear, I can see the sand and the rocks. But I've also been up there during salmon season. And when I go up there, the water is almost as black as my jacket here. Because there's so many salmon swimming in that water that if their backs were slippery, you could probably walk across their backs to the other side of the river. That's how many salmon are up there. Now as everyone was making their way up there, and they were setting up for their salmon camp, Waututh was paddling in on his canoe. And he seen these two little boys there. And these boys, they seen all the salmon swimming. And they're grabbing rocks the size of their hand and throwing them down, knocking the fish dead. The other boy was grabbing boulders bigger than my drum, throwing them, squishing the salmon, dead. Or knocking them out of the river onto the other side on the land. And they wouldn't make it. They would die too. Now Waututh, he told these boys, he caught them and he told them, these aren't our ways. These aren't our teachings. We only take what we need. And the boys kind of just laughed at him and kind of ran away down the trail. Now Waututh, he would always be the first to be awake in the mornings. And he would go out and he would take care of all these lands and make sure everybody was taken care of. Now when he did that next morning, he woke up and he walked down the trail. And when he was walking to look for any more Tsleil-Wautuths so that they can get their salmon, these same two boys woke up and they walked down to the river and they seen Waututh's canoe sitting on the beach. They're like, oh, he's still sleeping. So they went to trees and they broke branches off. And one boy, he was golfing them out. And the salmon would go flying out, dead. The other boy was scooping them out, baseball hitting them, killing the salmon. Now Waututh, he came back out of the trail and he seen these boys. Like I told you guys, these aren't our ways. These aren't our teachings. And our salmon season is September, October, November up the river. And as you know, the water's really cold then. But Waututh, he walked into the water up to the waist and he started singing. Wanina, wanina, hai, hai, wanina, hai, hai, wanina, hai, hai, hai. And by the time Waututh finished singing his song, the salmon had left the river back into the inlet. Now the rest of the villagers came down, the rest of the Tsleil-Wautuths came down to the river, and they seen the river was clear. And they knew of Waututh's powers. And they turned to Waututh. Why did you do this? Why did you make the salmon leave? And Waututh told them about the two boys. He's like, I didn't tell the salmon to leave. I told them what these two boys were doing, and they left on their own. And they could see them in the distance bubbling. They could see the bubbles of the salmon. So in our teachings, in my teachings, I hear and I see it takes a whole community or a whole village to raise a child. And I really believe that in my heart and my mind. So they took these two boys. They took them apart, and the families, they all gave them their teachings. They all told them our ways. And these boys got it. Not Samat. In their heart and in their mind. They understood our ways. So that night they went into the big house, and the big house was full. More people than this. As you heard, we had over 10,000 members. They were all there. All the different families were there. These boys were scared. They were nervous, but they knew in their heart what they needed to do. So they walked into the middle of the floor. Said, sorry for what we have done. We know what we have done. We won't let it happen again. And all the families, they said, it's not us you need to apologize to. They turned to Waututh. We're sorry for what we have done, and we won't let that happen again. And Waututh, he told the boys, it's not me you need to apologize to. Does anybody know who they need to apologize to? Oh, see him, the salmon. That's right. So those boys, in my teaching, in my culture, I really believe that this is power and that this is medicine. And I too am a dad and a proud papa of young boys. And I share these teachings with them. And we have our medicine and our power in our drum. My boys have their own drum. My grandsons have their own drum. So these two boys, they had their own drum. And that next morning, they woke up before Waututh. And they walked down to that river. And they walked into that river and they shared this song. By the time those two boys finished singing their song, all the salmon had returned back to the river, and the rest of the Tsleil-Waututh got their salmon for the winter. Oh, Siam, I raise my hands and I thank you for listening to my words. Oh, Siam.
We have one more song, dance, we'd like to share with you. Before we get to that, almost forgot, I'll introduce our dance group that you see here. Starting on the right, we have Watsuk Tamats, also known as Auntie Lissy Gus. And next we have Watsuk Tanat, also known as Cassandra Smith. Next to that, not next to that, sorry. Yeah, getting a little tongue-tied here. Next we have Tsimtalat, also known as Auntie Shar Alec. Next we have Talia Gus. Next we have Tamia Gus. Next we have Wachawa, also known as Ariana Green. Next we have Robert George Jr. Next we have favorite cousin Les George. And I'm Sealton, also known as Robert George Sr. So the song we're going to close with is our Skiakaltoch Slolum, also known as Spirit of Tslaiwätaḻ. Before we get to that, I just want to raise our hands and thank the organizers for allowing us to be here. And our elders would say you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here today, so we thank you for that. Hoichaipa. So just a bit of an explanation. The game of Tslaiwätaḻ was started as an alternative to war. So here, just like anywhere else in the world, we had conflict. I should say we have conflict and dispute. We had war. So instead of having a big bloody fight or a battle, the two sides would sit down across from each other and play this game. It's like a guessing game or a game of chance. And you'll see in some of the dance moves that some of the motions that you might see. And there's many names. We call it Tslaiwätaḻ, but we also call it stick game or bone game, and it's played all throughout Turtle Island. So once again, Hoichaipa, thank you.
sharing your dance and storytelling. We now have two young dancers from who are Nakota Sioux and Anishinaabe and Coast Salish. Their names are Sahara and Ariana. Sahara Billy is 16 years old, and Ariana Hotamani is 15 years old. They are the great-granddaughters of a residential school survivor and a war veteran. They both started dancing a powwow at a very young age, and they were their first in their family of dancers, and now the family has 14 dancers in total, and I understand they also play basketball. So please, Sahara is a grass dancer. This is an important job at ceremonies, as these are the first dancers to come out and flatten the long grass down, and the long stride of the dancer helps with the process. And once the grass is laid down, the ceremony can start. And so, Sahara, you're starting on your own first? Great, so please welcome Sahara Billy. Sahara and Ariana, everyone. Next we have possibly our youngest dancer. Ramona is Métis Wet'suwet'en, grade 1 student in Port Moody. She dances the Red River Jig, a traditional Métis dance. Ramona is new to dancing and very proud of her culture and heritage. She is the granddaughter of a residential school survivors, and she is an inspiring Indigenous dancer and artist. Ramona is 6 years old. Please help me welcome Ramona to the stage. Next we have up Janelle Aladina. Janelle is from Shuswap and Williams Lake Indian Band. Her father is the former Chief Willie Alphonse Jr. Her mother is Cree from Horse Lake, and she's been dancing fancy and jingle dance since she was 2 years old, and was also named as the First Nations role model for School District 27. Janelle sings on the hand drum, teaches basic powwow dancing, and is a craftswoman and storyteller. We are fortunate to have her here to share dancing with us. And at the end of today's ceremonies, we are going to have a dance workshop where you can all come and learn yourself. We'll probably have it back on the stage because the grass is a bit wet, but we hope you'll join us. And to learn more about Janelle and her dancing, she's here to share with us. Janelle Aladina, everyone.
Wait, up. Janelle Aladino and Squest. Tahoe to Sequatum. Rens to Achot. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Janelle Aladina. I'm a proud Shuswap and Cree woman from the Williams Lake First Nation, and I currently reside just over here in Port Coquitlam with my husband. I'm a wife, an artist, an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a dancer. I've been dancing since I was 2 years old, mainly women's fancy, but today I will be sharing with you the jingle dress dance. The jingle dress dance is our healing dance. You did hear a little bit about it before and the story about it, but I will give you the full story on the knowing and the teachings that I have gotten. Now, in each community, it might be a little bit different. It might be a different person or a different woman or a different man, but this is how it was taught to me. So back in our ancestors' days, there was a little girl who got really sick. And when she got really sick, we didn't have these pharmacies and these doctors and medicine like we do nowadays. We had what's called a medicine man or a medicine woman. Each community is a little bit different. So in the community, when this little girl got sick, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have the proper medicine to give her. They didn't have the hospital to bring her to. So they consulted with the medicine man. Medicine man, what do we do? How do we heal this little girl? The medicine man said, I don't know. This disease that has come to our people is so new. I don't even have the medicine to heal her. I must go to the mountains and I must ask our ancestors. He went to the mountains and he fasted. Now again, in each culture, it may be a little bit different. It might be a woman that went to the mountains. Went to the mountains and fasted. Fasted is when you don't eat. For 3 days and 3 nights, they did not eat. To have a vision, to have the ancestors be called on, to help guide our people on what to do for this little girl's sickness. In his mind, they dreamt of this jingle dress, and they dreamt of this song. And they said, you must gather all of the materials as a community, and you must make this dress for this little girl. Now, this is made out of fabric, and we have metal cones, but back in our ancestors' days, we would have wore things like buckskin or deer hide, moose hide. We would have used animal bones. We would have used shells to make all the beautiful sounds. Everything that you see on me today is handmade by somebody, and it is going to be passed down throughout our family. So after he had this vision, he went down to the villagers and he said, we must gather all these materials and make this dress for this little girl, and she must dance in this dress and it will heal her. I had a vision. But it won't only heal her, it will heal all of our people and for the future generations to come. So they made this dress for this little girl and they put it on her. But she was so sick she couldn't even stand up. Again, this is a true story, and it's one that we believe and we tell all of our people, so we remember where we come from and why we wear this dress. They made this dress for this little girl, and she was so weak she couldn't even stand, and the elders came out to help hold her up. They said, you must move your feet, you must dance to this song, it will heal you. So she started taking little steps, and by the middle of the song she started gaining more and more strength, and she started to dance. And by the end of the song, she was strong enough to dance without the elders holding her up. She was waving her fan in the air. And after the song was done, the medicine man said, this will be our healing dress. This will be our praying dance. And this will heal our people and our future generations to come. So when I wear this dress, when anyone wears this dress, it's a huge honor in our community because we are holding prayers and we're holding space for everybody. When I wear this dress, I wear it with good intentions in my heart and my mind. I speak positive thoughts throughout my dance. And the jingles on the dance traditionally would be 365 cones. That's one for each day of the year. One prayer for each day of the year. Now I'm cheating a little bit because I took out a row of cones because the dress was a little bit long on me. So I do not have 365, but I am praying every day for you all. So when I'm in this dress and in this dance, I like to hold space for people, especially the people that have sickness inside them, but not just physical sickness, sickness in your heart, sickness in your mind. Our people suffer with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of sickness in your mind. And I always like to say, get out of your mind and into your body, into your heart. So that's why I'm holding a workshop later on here after the storytelling, and all of you are welcome to join me on the stage, and we can just learn some power moves, because again, we're getting out of our mind and into our heart, into our bodies. So when I'm dancing, and if you have anything weighing you down, if you have any sadness in your heart, if you have any sickness inside of you, if you have any pain that you don't want to talk about, I want you to think about that. And I want to take that away from you. I want to help heal our people. So I'm going to be praying over all of you, good intentions, good spirit. And when you see my fan wave over all atop of you, and I'm pushing it off into the sky, I'm taking all of that negative energy. I'm taking that all away from you, and I hope that you feel that. And I'm pushing it off to the Creator so that we can all be healed together here. I hope you enjoy my dancing. Chesham. Amazing. Thank you for holding space for me, for allowing me to share my medicine with you. With everything that I have on, I just kind of wanted to explain what I'm exactly wearing and why it's important that I'm here today and what I do on a day-to-day basis. So starting from my head down, everything that you see me wearing here today is called a regalia. It is not a costume, it's not an outfit, it's not some fancy clothes, it's a regalia. So if you go to a powwow or you see an Indigenous dancer in a dancing regalia, you compliment them, say, that's a beautiful regalia. As Indigenous people, we do like compliments too, so don't be shy to ever come up. Ask to talk to us. We can share some stories. But because these pieces are sacred, we just ask, please respect our space and try not to touch anything unless we allow you to. Everything is so beautiful and we always want to inspect a little bit closer. But it's okay to come up and ask us for a picture, to take videos. We love sharing our culture with everybody. So starting from my head up, these are eagle feathers that I have on my head. This is the first time that I am wearing my true eagle feathers. I have always danced with imitation feathers before, and I'll get into a story about where I came from and why that was the case. So I'm wearing 2 eagle feathers. 2 eagle feathers signify that I am married. So when I go to a powwow or I go to a ceremony, people know that I'm taken. The headband that you see right here with these little shells, including the shells on my wristband, the shells on my choker, these are all denatilium shells. Denatilium are crustaceans from the ocean, and they would have lived in these little tiny shells, just underneath the water and the sand. Then I am wearing a beaded medallion. The medallion is a butterfly because I'm a fancy dancer as well, but it also has a buffalo on it. My mom is from the Plains Cree people, Treaty 6 over in Alberta. So their people would have been nomadic Indigenous people that lived in teepees and followed the buffalo around. So that's why I have the buffalo on my beaded medallion. The hair pieces right here are red abalone shells. So you can see the back of it. That's the shell. And the beautiful abalone color on the inside. These are carved out into horse heads. This is from my dad's side of the family, the Tsleil-Waututh people. We are horse people. We come from horse family. And my dad was a bull rider growing up as well. So this is just paying homage to him, our horse people. The breastplate that I'm wearing here is also denatilium shells with a copper or Indian coin head on it. The belt was custom made for me. You can see that it also has a horse on the back and some beautiful flowers. I got this one custom made where she carved into the leather and then painted over it specifically for me to honor my family and where I come from. The jingle dress, again, 365 cones, but I am cheating. I took about 50 off of them. But everything that I have on top of me, all my beadwork, all my feathers, all my furs, it's about 12 pounds. And it is velvet, so it's very warm. So you can imagine when we're dancing outside in powwows in 40-degree heat, and we're making it look really easy. In our minds, we're just trying not to pass out. So you make sure that you always cheer really loud when you're in a powwow and you're seeing Indigenous people dance, because although we might make it look easy, my feet are cramping right now, but you couldn't tell because the smile's on my face. The furs that I have on my earrings right here, and the furs that are hanging down right here, these are otter furs. And the white furs that I have right here are ermines, or also weasels. Fun fact is that only in the wintertime they are white. In the summertime they're brown, and that's just to camouflage them better. Then my moccasins. My moccasins are custom made for me, and I'm getting new ones made as well. These are moose hide. Now the reason why I'm getting new ones made for me is because just from one season of dancing, 1 year of dancing, these moccasins have stretched out about that much from my foot. And that's because I'm tippy-toed dancing on my feet all the time. So over time, the moose hide likes to stretch. So I'm getting a new pair made for me so that they're nice and snug. So they look a little bit big right now, but that's because I dance hard in them all year. And I believe that that's everything that I have on my regalia. Like I said, I am a woman's fancy dancer, but I did not come from a powwow family. I was not raised in the powwow circle. Again, my dad was a bull rider. He was a cowboy. And my dad raised me as a single father without my mom. My mom comes from the Treaty 6 Cree people over in Alberta. Now they are powwow people. All of my uncles and aunties, they're all drummers and singers. All the men grow out their hair really long. But I was not raised with that family. I was only raised by my dad, a single father raising 3 children. So when I was raised by him, he obviously tried to teach our traditions to us. But I'm only standing here today because both my grandparents survived residential school, both of them. And not only did they both go to residential school, but my dad went to the day school. I'm the first generation not to have to attend residential school. So it is not a part of our history. It is very well not too long ago. In 1996 was the last time that they've shut down the last residential school. 1996. Just let that sink in for a moment. I would have been 6 years old. Everything was taken from us. Our language, our culture, they cut their hair, and they made my grandparents learn English. They did not speak English. English is their second language. They spoke səlilwətaḻ, Shuswap language. They were forced to learn English. They had their hair cut short. They weren't allowed to practice their ceremonies or speak their language or practice their dancing. It was beat out of them. And the same thing with my father. So you can just see, with a single dad raising 3 small children, how could he try to introduce something like this to me, even though he didn't know it? So growing up, I taught myself, I watched other people. Anytime that I got to see my mom, I would ask her questions and she would show me how to dance. She is a beautiful jingle dress dancer as well. And I learned from watching. And that's why it is so important for me to be here today. Again, Janelle, why are you here today? Well, not only is it Indigenous Peoples Day and I'm Indigenous, but I do this as a way of sharing our culture to show everybody that we're still here. We are still here. We haven't gone anywhere and our culture is still rich. One day, me and my husband will have children and we will raise them in powwow family. We will raise them as dancers if they wish to. Because that's something that I wanted when I was younger, that I craved for. But I do this today to also share our culture with everybody, because I don't want anybody to also have that sense of, where do I fit in? Because growing up, I faced a lot of racism. I was never proud to stand in front of everybody and say that I'm a proud Indigenous woman. I was very much ashamed of the color of my skin. And I would never stand in front of people and say that I'm Indigenous when I was younger. And that just comes from stereotypes of how Indigenous people are. And I'm proud to say I'm standing here today as not only a wife, but a business owner. I fought teen pregnancy. We do not have children. I did not fall into alcoholism and drug addiction. And I practice and teach my culture all across British Columbia, at all elementary schools, high schools, private schools. I'm fortunate enough to be in a community called Jess Dance, Jess Dance. And she's the one who contacted me to ask me to dance here. And that's somebody who you would contact if you wanted me to dance for any of your communities, your schools, your functions, your work functions. I'm always here to share our culture because I want to make sure that people know that we are still here. And I'm so thankful to have all of you here today. I hope that some of you stick around after the storytelling and want to do a little bit of dancing with me. Cultural appreciation. Kukshesham.
Next up, we have a spoken word artist whose name is Ronnie Dean Harris, and AKA Oz12. Ronnie is a multidisciplinary artist. I have a list, but he will introduce himself. But his work spans design, visual arts, film, television, community-based education. It's all rooted in Indigenous knowledge systems and contemporary practices. He is also a historian. Gonna film. And he, with history and cosmetology and genealogy and policy work, and he served as a program leader and cultural developer, and has worked on projects including advancing the Geohazards Indigenous Mapping Project and supporting Indigenous resurgence initiatives through Two Rivers Remix. He is an amazing artist, and we are very grateful to have him here today. He's going to deliver a spoken word piece, and I'm going to bring him up to the stage, and he will share a little bit more about who he is. Ronnie Dean Harris, everyone.
Hi, Auntie. Hi, everyone. Just gonna set up a little thing here. My name's Ronnie Dean Harris. The ancestors know me as Kwalas and Malithuk. My family's come from Stalo, Stadlim, Inuit territories. Most locally, my grandpa was Chief Coquitlam, named after the river where the city gets its name from. I currently live at what is called Sapperton, where the Burnett meets the Fraser River. At the same place where my papa's ancestors lived in 1808 when Simon Fraser passed through that area. So I represent a continuous memory that lives in Sapperton of Kwantlen, Coquitlam, Musqueam, Métis people representing the watershed. I want to thank the organizers for having me here, and of course to our dear relatives here, the Tsleil-Waututh people, and the ancestors here at Tsleil-Waututh at this ancient village site. I don't really ever do these Indigenous Peoples Day things. For me, it's like, it's the day for me to take a day off of being Indigenous, because it's like I spend most of my time researching and trying to survive this colonial system you guys have set up for us here. So I'm going to share a little bit. Usually I do poetry. I started as a rap guy. I've done that here a number of times. But my work has been largely in research, and to my understanding, I'm interacting with this living and breathing relational matrix that exists, that's encoded into the land, into the stories that surround us here. And our ancestors have been tracking this breath since gosh knows who's when. So I'm going to read to you something that I've been working on, and I've kind of customized it for here today. And I want to call it something that, instead of the normal, like, let me dump the colonial shame upon you and make you smudge upon it and feel really bad about it. No. Today, we're going to reweave ourselves into the story, into relation to where we are now in the watershed. Does that make sense? We're going to weave you into the story. You're going to bring your thread from where your ancestors come from. And we're going to look at the tapestry that emerges from the community you've created here in Port Moody. Port Moody, for me, my ancestors don't really come from here. I'm from Coquitlam and Kwantlen. But I grew up partially my life here because one of my best friends when I was growing up, Scott Bremner, lived up there in April Drive or whatever. So we used to run around in ninja suits and do all kinds of awesome stuff when we were kids here. And so Port Moody has a squelquel, a living memory to me as a place where I kind of came of age and, caused a little bit of ruckus as a 12-year-old. So now I come back here as somebody that I've been interacting with the stories, and I've been interacting with the knowledge of our ancestors. And so I want to share with you something that I feel like I've pulled. It's just a simple thread, and pulled from the different volumes of knowledge I've been blessed to have a look at, if that makes sense. And there's going to be a call to action in there for you guys. We don't prescribe to ancient aliens. You're going to wish it was ancient aliens when you realize the responsibility you're about to be woven into. But let's begin, shall we? This is exactly a year since I got my glasses, and I often forget to put them on. And so it begins like this. I have made no oaths to uphold the Crown's law, though I will recognize the tangled relationship. My oaths and commitments were made in ceremony to uphold the breath of creation in its many oscillations that have shaped and formed the watersheds my ancestors inhabit. Our kinship to these watersheds, and with the beings who have made a seat at the table for us, has been in continuance since before the glaciers arrived, through their retreat and into the return of species who reestablished these ecosystems. Our old people marked these kinships through relational ceremony, ecological observation, not as a spiritual materialism, but as a form of governance rooted in kinship and connection rather than control or dominion. Those who have stood before the fires and offered their time and their bodies to the spirit of these transformed ancestors have all made an oath to uphold this ancient order. And this is done through the relational frameworks and offerings that maintain the breath of these beings in place. Without this breath of creation, maintained since the shaping of the Fraser Delta and the weaving of these watersheds after the Ice Age and the post-flood recovery eras, none of what you see or what you'd be doing here would be possible. If you claim a spirit power or a kinship to one of these beings, then you, more than anyone, have a responsibility to uphold the breath of creation and to maintain the ecosystems and habitats of the beings you claim a spiritual connection to. This framework was given to us in orality, spoken word. It survived colonization, removal, erasure, dispossession, and it breathes here before us today. My oath is to uphold that ancient breath, this ancient order in which we claim kinship. Not the order of the crown, whose dominion only dates back to 1189 AD at the crowning of King Richard I, nor the biblical order whose timeline just begins about, 2,025 years ago? By the time of the Messianic consciousness, we had already been passing these symbols of epochs of transformation through our stories and art for thousands of years. For post-flood recovery stories, add another 9,000 years. For pre-glacial narratives and markers of inhabitation, you can add even more. So I'm standing here in Port Moody, near the endpoint of North Road. North Road was built in 1861 by the Royal Engineers, and it ran from Sapperton to Port Moody as a military supply route in case New Westminster was attacked from the sea. It was cut through Indigenous territory without consent. The Royal Engineers, based in Sapperton, brought surveying equipment like this. A gunter's chain, 66 feet long. Where's it? Using this chain, so I almost lost my place here. These tools and system, this gunter's chain, a 60-foot chain used to measure the land in the parcels, and so they used this tool to lay out the colonial roads and lot lines. It was a mechanical tool used to divide the land into squares for sale, preemption, and settlements. They also established the Coast Meridian, a north and south survey line that today follows 168th Street. It was imposed through Kwantlen territory and then used as a reference point for dividing and allocating land. This line helped form the grid system that still defines land ownership and property in the region. A permanent survey benchmark still exists near Richmond Street in Columbia and New Westminster, evidence of the original surveying base where these systems were anchored. These tools and systems, the Gunter's Chain, North Road, Coast Meridian, were not neutral. They were part of a legal and military process that facilitated the dispossession of Indigenous people from their lands. Land was surveyed, divided, sold, and settled without treaty, without consent, without recognition of Indigenous governance systems that were already in place. And so my call to action is this: stand before these watersheds of your ancestors and where you live. Understand the ecosystems and the breaths that live within them. Study the relational networks that must be upheld for those systems to sustain and recharge their vitalities. We live in a constant oscillation with the breath of the sun, the moon, water, light, plants, fish, shellfish, roots, insects, bugs, algae, moss, stars, magnetism, electricity, nuclear forces, cosmic rays, gravity, mitosis, meiosis, all the way down to necrosis. So it's time for an ecological reconciliation and recognition of the breath. The Crown and the corporations are going to have to reckon with their role in the imbalances we now face in these woven watersheds, because the watersheds don't breathe alone. When one exhales, the other inhales, as do we and all living beings in this framework we've been calling Nat Samat, one heart, one mind, are all my relations. And I want to honor and recognize all of you who are carrying a bundle in this work, upholding this ancient order, maintaining this vital breath movement that is the framework of our connections. You guys have a responsibility. You guys see what's happening in our ecosystems. You guys are here, you guys are living, working, and playing in these lands. It's time to look and listen to the real law of the land, which is the ecosystem. The cultural keystone species that without the ecosystems will collapse. So the laws and these bills that are being pushed through, this expedience of capitalism and industry doesn't hold the weight that a collapsing ecosystem will hold, which will govern where you guys live, what you guys do, where you guys eat, and also what your industry will do. So I would ask yourselves to take a deep look at where we are, take a walk along the shores, and without any hyperbole or rhetoric, come into relation with the beings that have given their lives so that we could be here. At one point in time, when the glaciers receded, there was nothing but soil here, a slow breath of just seafood and shellfish, until bears and minks came through, spreading seeds through their poop. That's why coyotes' poop is so sacred in the stories. Transformation, breathing life and breath, establishing plants who come, animals who come, these things, these animals who breathe life into these ecosystems so that we could be here. And that's what's represented in our totems, in our stories, in our place names, and the symbols you see our uncle carving back there are all in recognition of these cultural keystone species in our watersheds. And so if you want to look at a true reconciliation, I ask you to look at those ancestors as well. If you're going to do a land recognition, a land acknowledgement, actually acknowledge the land, not just a band office. Yeah? You've been woven into this. You've been woven into this since before. I'm just helping you to remember, right? You all bring a story here from the land of your ancestors. You all have come here to weave together this community and communities. And so it's now time for us to take a closer look at where we're at. Beyond the concrete, beyond the buildings, beyond the marketing rhetoric that our tourism industry sell us, and really start to listen slowly to the breath of creation. And you remember when COVID happened and everything slowed down? The temperature dropped a little bit. You can hear quietness outside. And we proved that we could slow down and listen to this rhythm. We proved that we could slow down and listen to the breath. But the breath of capitalism keeps expediting faster and faster and extracting from these watersheds what we need to breathe back. And so that's my request. Do something today to breathe back into the watersheds you live. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone so very much for joining us today. Thank you, Ronnie. That was really inspiring. Gave us a lot to think about. I just wanted to thank all the amazing volunteers and event staff that have put on this event today. It's incredibly important to recognize, come with open hearts and open minds, and we hope that all the messages and cultural teachings you take with you. A big thank you to Tasha Faye Evans, Pomo Arts, Noons Creek Hatchery, and the amazing performers and artists that graced us with their presence today. We're also very grateful for Councillor Alec and Tsleil-Waututh Nation, Coast Salish Nations, and all Indigenous peoples for sharing their teachings and generosity. We raise our hands to you all. So, again, hope you enjoyed the cultural sharing. We welcome you back next year, and every day moving forward, we hope we keep Indigenous peoples in our hearts and our minds. We mentioned that we have Janelle on the stage for a workshop, a dance workshop, but we also have Pomo Arts, a great craft, Halakton. Thank you very much for being here today, our master carver from Squamish Nation. And please do check out the Ecological Society and Noons Creek Salmon Hatchery, and enjoy the bannock. Thank you, everyone.